So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the third and final, for right now, Leading Well class today. I'm Megan, as I said a moment ago, and I'm really excited to actually kind of be wrapping everything up. Bern did a fabulous job kicking us off, as she always does, and Lauren and Josh had so much awesome information last week. And then today, we're going to have some great content, and then we'll recap everything towards the end, and there'll be some action items as previously, and then just bringing it all together. So I'm really excited for this week's class because we have two of our State of Health and Wellness Award winners joining us, JJ and Adrienne, who I'll introduce here in a moment. And we're going to be hearing from their experiences of leading and supporting wellness on their teams. Last week, Laura Peterson from the Health Plan presented, and she had some really fun ideas, stuff that I definitely took away and I'm going to be implementing with our team. But it was fun to hear some of the things they've been doing, especially around the birthdays. I don't know how many of you caught that. So when JJ and Adrienne speak, you are welcome to put questions in the chat box. Josh and I can help monitor those, probably more myself, and also comments if you have any comments as well. So like after JJ talks, I'll just pause for a moment to let all of you maybe add a comment or question or whatever, if you have any, and then I'll go ahead and introduce Adrienne and do the same thing. And then JJ and Adrienne, if you just don't mind staying on for that component, that way we can adjust questions kind of all together. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free to write them in the chat box and we'll get to them. So again, to recap, Bern shared with all of you about making the case for all of you as managers and supervisors to support wellness and how important that is, not only for supporting wellness on your teams, but also the oxygen mask, right? You can't pour from an empty cup notion, that you need to take care of yourselves as well. And hopefully that was very motivating for all of you. She is one of the most inspirational speakers that I've come across in my entire career. So hopefully you got a lot out of her talk. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, Josh and Lauren provided you with lots of great ideas and strategies for supporting those that work for and with you, right? Because we're all together and we're all on these teams, and it's really great if you can support those that work for you, but also maybe those that are alongside of you at your level. So those were awesome ideas. And then I sent out some of those following the webinar in the email. So I'm really excited, like I said before, to introduce JJ and Adrienne. And JJ, I'm going to turn over to you in just a moment, but I want to formally introduce you. So JJ was nominated, like Laura and Adrienne, as a part of the Buckeye Wellness Leadership Awards. It was like a year ago, I believe, when we were doing all this kind of nomination stuff. And then obviously we're in the throes of COVID with quarantines and everything. So the State of Health and Wellness got pushed a little bit. But still, I mean, it's been within a year. So this is absolutely pertinent. And what I really appreciate about JJ and Adrienne is they're coming at it from a couple different angles, like working in the clinics, also not on site. And so the strategies, although they might be specific to maybe a certain environment, they also can overlap amongst the environments because you can do a lot of this stuff in multiple settings. So I'm really excited to hear what they've been doing in this kind of this environmental context. So JJ is a board certified clinical specialist in orthopedic PT. He works for the Med Center in acute rehab, and he is also the director of Acute Rehab Services. So JJ, if you can unmute yourself, if you haven't already, and I'm going to mute myself. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Megan. And it's a pleasure to join you all today. As Megan alluded to, this has been a long time in the making to try to get everything coordinated, scheduled, and finally be here with you all. So it was an honor to receive the Wellness Leadership Award. To give some context, we'll have to rewind about a year to a year and a half. At that time, I was a rehab services manager at one of our ambulatory physical therapy clinics at the Healthy New Albany facility. So for those of you familiar or not familiar with New Albany, I'm going to give a quick snapshot of that operation. Healthy New Albany is a health and wellness facility located in New Albany. It does house some of our physician and physical therapy practices. And the whole idea of the building was to be the hub of wellness activity within the local community. So that positioned the physical therapy team there in a unique place to not only provide the traditional physical therapy services, but then to be, leading minds and voices for health and wellness activities throughout the community. So at that time, when I was taking over to support and lead a team, this was pre-COVID, but knowing we have an academic medical center and that many people in our organization have a deep appreciation for utilizing evidence and digging in to see what best practices should be. As a leader, I wanted to make sure I was following best practices when it came to people leadership in a healthcare organization. What I stumbled upon led me to this path that I ultimately rolled out with the team, and then have continued to roll out in the acute rehab department in my new role as director. And that was around the concept of really getting to the heart of what drives satisfaction in the workplace, satisfaction and health, quite honestly, in the workplace. And some of the literature as it relates to healthcare leadership really hinges or boils down to three big concepts. And those are the things that I really wanted to share with you all today. One was any team that wants to be satisfied and healthy in the workplace has to have a well-defined and meaningful purpose. For some teams in an organization, that well-defined and meaningful purpose is quite obvious. So when you're in a profession that serves people, like the physical therapy profession, the people or the patients are the purpose. That should be a compelling one for people. Secondly, teams need to have a clear and a tangible vision. So I wanted to make sure these were some concepts that the team started to discuss being in the health and wellness facility where we were located. And then lastly, having relationships in the workplace that resonate with you. So when we say resonant relationships, it's relationships that move you, and hopefully in a good way. So to recap, we're really considering defining a clear and meaningful purpose, establishing a tangible and inspiring vision, and developing relationships that resonate with you. So what we defined as the physical therapy team at Healthy New Albany was our purpose was to serve each other and the local community, and with what we did. The vision that we had is that we wanted to be a leading team that promoted the concept of health and wellness in the workday within the organization. And I think we were uniquely positioned for that, being at Healthy New Albany. And then lastly, to promote our relationship building, we came up with a team mantra, and that mantra was wellness starts with we. So it was a fun spin or fun play on words, so to speak, but that's how we really tried to create a culture and a mindset around wellness in the workplace, is that it's a team effort. So we would be using terms like we and ours and us quite a bit. But that mantra of wellness starts with we really started to drive all of our practice in the physical therapy clinic. A couple other things to try to build relationship among the team. We took a lot of ideas from a book by Adam Grant called Give and Take. And that book really promotes the concept that success in the workplace tends to rise when there's a giving nature to a team. And the author does a really nice job defining when giving, the act of and the habit of giving can be taken too far. And it's the idea of, giving everything away, or, giving all your time away and you don't have time to do your job, can at some point not be a good thing. But really defining what is healthy giving in the workplace of your time, of your knowledge, and just being very adaptable to the people around you. So our team really went through and found ways that we wanted to promote giving to each other, to our patients, to the community. I see a question in the chat. The name of the book was Give and Take, and that's by Adam Grant. And there was an exercise in that he called the reciprocity ring. That it's a simple concept that a team of people or a group of people, it doesn't even have to be in the workplace, it could be in the community, pulls the resources together so that anybody in need, obviously you would benefit from a larger pool of resources with more people trying to give into that pool of resources. It could be, financial resources, food, time, connections, relationships, things like that. But trying to keep it tight knit. So our team had that idea that whenever one of us was in need, the team would, without even a second thought, would be providing for each other. So that was really our path to defining how we wanted to promote health and wellness for each other. And it really did become a team game or a team effort, so to speak. And it all started with defining the purpose, agreeing on a tangible vision for ourselves, and committing to building our relationships with one another. So to fast forward now, I find myself supporting a department of rehab clinicians. So that's physical therapist, occupational therapist, and speech and language pathologists that span all the way from our brain and spine hospital, Rhodes and Doan Hall, the Ross Heart Hospital, and the James Cancer Hospital. So a lot of people now. And I find that utilizing the same approach, but empowering managers of those teams to go through the same process. It doesn't have to be the same purpose that I defined when I was managing a smaller team. It doesn't have to be the same vision, and it's not the same relationships because it's different people. But the expectation is clear that every team to be successful and healthy in the workplace and satisfied, the three main ingredients that should be part of that are the well-defined and meaningful purpose, a tangible vision, and the commitment to building relationships that resonate with every team member. So doesn't mean any one of those ingredients are easy in any area, and especially during a pandemic. But I have found trying to cascade that out to a larger group of people continues to be successful, because as human beings, we all know that we want to be really clear with what we're doing with our work and our commitment of time and energy. We want to hope for a future that's better than what we currently experience, and that's where the vision comes in. And that we all long and crave for relationships that feel supportive, that drive us to healthy habits and behaviors, that allow us to be human in the workplace. And that's the last thing that I wanted to share with you all today, is that as a leader in the organization, I really have made a concerted effort to practice what I preach. And what I mean by that is I've told every team that I lead up to this point, if I can't ask you to be a human being at work, I can't ask you to be anything. And I've tried to model that to my team, that on my best days and on my worst days, that I was honest with people about what I could and couldn't do for them, what I may need in terms of support to kind of move forward and be my best. But in those times that I am at my best, that I'm committed to giving everything that I can in the workplace. So I think that is something that I continue to try to be very mindful of, is that, again, I ask everybody that's part of my teams to be a human being at work, because without that, I can't ask them to do anything else. So I'm open to questions at this point. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but really, really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you all today. So thanks for the invitation.
Oh, we're so glad that you joined us, and that was really awesome. Probably a lot of us have been in the professional world where you're supposed to leave your personal problems at home, right? But your point is spot on. We're human. That stuff does come into work with us. And people can appreciate, not everyone, but a lot of people can appreciate when you have to be vulnerable to an extent. I mean, there's obviously a line with professional and personal, but I imagine that your staff appreciates that this philosophy that you have, because we are humans and we have emotions, and we need to make sure we acknowledge and own those every day, or else things don't line up the way we hope them to. So
yeah, no, and I do believe that that's a hard concept, because some of the social norms or even organizational norms of how do you separate being a human being and being a professional, and I think that's been modeled less consistently, the merging of those two, than the clear distinction that I'll be fully professional and not fully vulnerable.
Yeah.
But when I mentioned at the very beginning that I think our organization can appreciate the concept of evidence-based leadership, and when we lean into what the actual literature on healthcare leadership would suggest, it's a concept of promoting vulnerability, being honest, being transparent. And, I've taught the team members, just to be really clear, you don't have to be 100% every day, but when you're not, you do need to let the right people know. And that might be your direct supervisor, or the people that might be most impacted by you not being your 100%. I don't expect it to be a trend, like it's one of those things that I do want to be fully aware of when and how I need to support team members, but giving the permission, even that idea that, okay, I can have those days or those moments at work where, life takes over, so to speak. And I think empowering people in the workplace with that idea really allowed some of the teams to really soar and take off at that point.
So I have so many things I would love to talk to you about, but maybe we could do that offline. But I have a feeling that some of our folks on the call are going to be very interested in learning more about the processes that you've been in, the education you've gotten on this stuff. So before I have you put your email in the chat box, because I'd like you to do that so people can reach out to you directly. And if we can get some questions in after Adrienne goes, we will. But there are just a couple of quick things I wanted to mention. I chuckled when you said wellness starts with we. I told Bern a long time ago, there's no I in wellness. And it's kind of similar to the wellness starts with we. I kind of like yours better because it actually does start with the we, but there is no I in wellness. And so it's kind of that same notion that you just said. So I was laughing because I hadn't said it in a while. And then awesome. I'm glad you put the book in the chat box. One of our participants did, because I was going to double check on that one for you. And my last point, and then we'll switch to Adrienne, then come back to both of you, is what you're talking about is definitely health and wellness, but it's actually commitments to organizations. I've read a lot of the literature on this stuff, and when people feel valued and purpose and whatever thriving means to each one of us, especially at the workplace, we're more committed to our organizations. And there's a lot of research in the business field on this stuff. So this is like just nice parallels amongst all this stuff. So yeah. Okay. So MJ and Tanya, I see your questions, so hang on to those. And if we don't have a lot of time, maybe you both can follow up with JJ offline. So JJ, if you just put your email in the chat box, and Adrienne, I'm going to flip to you, and you should be able to share your screen, but let me know if you have any problems.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adrienne Boggs. I'm a program manager with the Center on Education and Training for Employment. We also call ourselves CEAT. We're housed within the College of Education and Human Ecology. So today I'm going to share with you some things we do within our organization to build cohesiveness, especially during COVID times. And hopefully this will spur some ideas for you. But before I talk about things at the organizational level, I want to first talk about things at the individual and the team level. And we need to get this slide to transition.
If you need me to, I might be able to do it as well.
I think something's in retrograde.
And thank you for introducing yourself. I was waiting for your slides to come up, and then I was going to introduce you. So thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Do you want me?
I was really excited.
Do you want me to? No, it's fine.
There we go.
There. Awesome.
Okay, there it went. So let's start off with self-care, because too often we put it last. And, we've all been on the flights where the attendants going over the safety protocols. And how often do we hear them say to put the oxygen masks on ourselves before attending to others? If you cannot breathe, you're not going to be of much help to those around you. And so often we forget this principle as soon as we deplane. We go around and we put the proverbial oxygen mask on everyone and everything. And before we know it, we feel like we can't breathe and we're setting ourselves up for burnout. And just to back up for a second, burnout's defined as chronic, prolonged response to stressors. It looks like exhaustion, both physical and mental, cynicism, and inefficacy. We talk about it in the context of the workplace, but with so many of us working from home and balancing multiple demands, the boundary lines between workplace and home get increasingly blurry. And I'll talk more about boundaries in just a minute. As leaders, we focus a lot of our energy outward, and rightly so. In doing all that, it's easy to forget to focus our attention inward. To lead well, we need to get our own house in order. And that can look like taking a few minutes in the morning to prioritize your day, to journal, meditate, work out, etc. Maybe you need to schedule many breaks throughout your day. This can also look like blocking time off on your calendar to focus on your work and your priorities, not to be on standby with the fire extinguisher for everyone else's issues. But whatever you choose to do, make it your time and make it sacred. When we do these things and prioritize our own self-care, it helps us to show up as the best version of ourselves. And this ripples out to all those around us. And JJ, just to back up on what you were talking about that really resonated with me about being purpose-driven, because that too ripples out when we're working with a purpose and we share that, and that shows up in the passion of what we do with our work. All these things that we bring into ourselves ripples out. But moving on beyond the self, I think one of the most important things you can do in leadership is focus on your team and the relationships you have with them. You absolutely have to care about the people on your team, those you supervise, those in your building. And, there may be some days you don't like some of those folks. You might get frustrated with them, whatever the case may be, and that's okay. We are all human. But you can't punish them because of that, because at the end of the day, they're human beings. We need relationships. It's awful to feel like you're just this faceless cog in the wheel who only sees your supervisor when there's a problem or they need something from you. So take the time to reach out to your folks at least once a week. Check in with them at the individual level, not just during a team meeting with the generic, how's everybody doing? The conversations are obviously going to be about work, but don't skimp on seeing how they're doing and what's going on in their lives. You don't need to pry, of course. Let them reveal what they want to reveal, but you do need to show a genuine caring interest. And I realize this may make some folks uncomfortable, but if there's issues going on in their home life, it's likely going to have an impact on their work life at some point. And honestly, we need to have a greater comfort in talking about mental health and recognizing when staff are in mental health distress. If I broke my wrist or had the flu, no one would hesitate to ask me how I was doing in my recovery. But if I'm having distress over my brother's unexpected death, people tend to ignore the situation because they're uncomfortable. It's not your job to fix your staff or play counselor, but you should be comfortable talking about the resources at the university. EAP offers a great training called Mental Health Awareness for managers, and it's great. It's definitely worth checking out. It's only about 2 hours long. And the last piece I want to talk about, the team levels boundaries, These are important, period. But in our pandemic, work from home world, a little reinforcement can't hurt. Boundaries are kind. So keep that mantra with you. Boundaries are kind. They're a great form of self-preservation. It's important for you in your position of leadership to set boundaries, but also empower your staff to set them. One of my favorite boundaries is no work-related contact outside of business hours, whatever your business hours may look like. What does it feel like for a team member who logs in Monday morning only to see that all these emails transpired over the weekend over whatever subject? What message does that send to them? And sure, staff have they have the choice not to respond to emails outside of hours. But when leadership is emailing them, it sends an implicit message that they should be monitoring their inbox. And I have an article from the Harvard Business Review about how late night emails are hurting your team. And I'm going to put that in the chat here after we wrap up. And just to reinforce some of this, I broke this rule the other day. I grabbed my work phone just to check my calendar real quick, and I noticed a message from someone who I don't normally hear from directly. So being human, I checked it, and it had some information in it that bothered me. So guess what? Work was in my head then all night long. And then as soon as I woke up the next morning, boom, that was the first thing. We have to disconnect to recharge our batteries. If we can't do that, if we're always on and always connected, we can't ever disconnect. We can't recharge our batteries. Then we get to the point where we're just running on empty. And I'm sure many of you have been there before. You know what that feels like. And that leads to a whole host of issues. One thing that we do at the center level is we support our staff through what we have called a care committee. The goal of our care committee is to acknowledge the value of staff members and their contributions at the center level, at the university level, at our college level. Some of our events that we coordinate is our holiday party, shown here. We also do a tailgate party. We provide condolences to staff members when they experience a loss. We acknowledge their years of service. Back when we were face-to-face, we would organize chair massages. We would also have weekly yoga sessions. And, in the course of the pandemic, we've had to be creative. So pictured here is our virtual holiday party. So we did have a ugly sweater contest. Most recently, we had a spring awakening event. And lucky for our staff, they also have a yoga instructor who works there. But what we did there is we had some mindful movement. We also facilitated discussion with staff, asking them during this pandemic, what have you learned? What would you like to keep? What would you like to give up? How have you grown? What are you looking forward to? And then we also had a spring photo contest and then close the event down with a heart-centered meditation. And last thing I want to show you here, we at our center level, we have a Teams channel, or we have a team. And then within that, we have channels. So what I'm showing you here is our Wellness Wednesday. And then we have, you can see the Spring Awakening. We changed that for each event that we host. We also have Friday Fun, so where we can insert a little levity, some puzzles and things like that. But this just encourages folks to be active. I'm always prodding folks to get up and work out in the mornings with me. And I don't have a whole lot of takers, but so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I will post the link for that Harvard Business article here, and I will stop my share.
Awesome. I'm going to take that link and also include it in the follow-up emails because I have another article. I forget where I found it off the top of my head, but it was, again, it's very kind of similar in content with what we're talking about. So I'll get that when you put that in there, and I'll include that also in the email that goes out to everyone. So JJ, thanks for following up on that reciprocity ring. So if you have questions or comments and want to put them in the chat box, please feel free. My question was, and you both were getting to it with your comments, but during the past year, how have you, I don't want to say pivoted, but maybe for lack of a better term, whether it's relationships and team building and or wellness, how have you shifted, I would say maybe. And JJ, why don't I start with you, and then I'll go to Adrienne on that one.
There's a lot that has changed, not only globally, but, all the way down into my own life. So over the past year, not only have I taken a new role, my wife and I, we had our third child a week and a half after I moved into the acute rehab department. So there's actually a lot of personal life changes going on for me. So I do feel like that was a perfect opportunity for me in the middle of the pandemic to model taking care of myself to my team. I think I raised some eyebrows a little bit in the first couple months when I even just offered time flexibility to the people that I directly support to say, hey, if you got everything done, or if you need to flex time, and just the concept of building in little flexibilities into the workplace, but then modeling that to say, hey, I'm willing because I have a family at home, and I'm in a new job, so there's a lot of added stress with learning a new job, and so I made sure that I modeled flexibilities in my own life, but then offered that opportunity for the people that I supported. I liked Adrienne's recommendation about boundaries, because for those that know me in the workplace, will say that I'm very big on expectations. Some people would say I'm firm but fair, and I've learned to take that as a term of endearment, that people feel like I'm really clear with things that I would ask out of them. I still promote the idea of professional excellence and expect that out of myself and with others, but there's a balance to be had, and that it's about, I always say, direction, not perfection. So if we're moving towards professional excellence, I feel great about that as a team. And I think letting people know that I'm not expecting perfection, but if we get good synergy on the team, we can usually move in a really positive direction. And once we see that, be very quick to validate your team that things are moving in the right direction. So that's when you want to praise lavishly to your team. And I think that goes a long way.
Adrienne, any last comments on that topic as well?
So with regard to pivoting, I had a little bit of an advantage because a lot of our team was already remote and had been for several years, but the larger center had not been. So normally when we had worked from home, it was just to flex our time. But I will say, you have to be very explicit with folks. Explicit in your communication. And, a lot of times you'll hear you can't over communicate. Yes, you can. You can, and, that doesn't mean you have to send 15 emails a day. Be purposeful in your communication and be thoughtful about it. It's so easy to get tunneled into what we do. And then 2 weeks have gone by and you haven't talked to somebody on your team. And so being very thoughtful about that communication, because even if you don't have anything work related to discuss with them, just go talk to them. You would think nothing about walking down the hall and popping in their office and saying, hey, how was your weekend? We have umpteen modes of communication. Hit them up on Instant Messenger and say, hey, how was your weekend? It's not weird. Just do it.
Yeah, the personal touch. We could sit here and talk for hours, and I'm so sorry. I have to move on. But this was awesome. And for those of you who are interested in more information from either of them, thank you, JJ. And then Adrienne, if you don't mind putting yours in there too, connect with them, or I can link you to them, or Josh or Lauren, or you can email Buckeye Wellness and we can connect you. But if you both want to stay on, you're more than welcome to, or you can hop off because we're going to go into some breakout rooms. So thank you for this incredible learning opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. No,
okay. All right, everyone, I am going to attempt to do breakout rooms for the very first time in my life. Yes, my team laughs at me. So I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and then I'm going to put a few questions, and I'll make sure they go out through that link like they did last time. But here, we're going to give you 5 minutes, then we'll come back and just recap everything. So the questions, again, I'll make sure you all have these. How to better support those that work for you on health and well-being. Now that you've been through 2 classes and then have heard from Adrienne and JJ, how can you better support those that work for you? How can you help your staff transition back to the office if this is going to happen? If you are already in the office or have made these transitions or are in that process, how are you doing it right now? So it's kind of a 2-part question depending on your situation. And also, as we make this transition back to where we were pre-COVID, whether you're there or not, hybrid or whatever the situation, how can you help better promote, I'm going to say synergy/balance. You can use either word there, between work and life. So that personal and professional aspect that we've been hearing from with our presenters today. So how can you better support and promote that synergy between the professional world and the personal world? Because as JJ and Adrienne alluded to, there's definitely not a separation. So how can you support that balance between them? So I'll make sure you have those questions. Here goes. So wish me luck. Hang on a second. Almost done.
Later I can give you a foot massage.
Okay. Let me get through this. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, we're going to wrap up here in just the next couple minutes. I want to show you a few things. I also want to offer something. Sorry about that. You don't even want to know what's going on here. Probably some of you are experiencing that as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully you're able to see. So I have my little notes here. So these are going to come to you in your email tomorrow. Oops, wrong thing. The first document, and some of you may have seen this before. We haven't really circulated it in the last probably 2 years, but it has been used in the past. I went through and updated it a little bit. This is a wellness culture audit, and it's good for both kind of all 3 situations, whether you're live, hybrid, or completely remote. Some of it you just have to kind of take into context as you answer the questions, depending on your situations. So this is a 2-page audit, which allows you to just consider what's going on in your environments with regards to health and wellness and the conversations we've had over the last 3 weeks. And also there's some good ideas in here too. So you might get some ideas just reading through this that you might be able to do when the situation warrants itself. So that'll come in your email. And then here's more maybe like it's a shorter culture audit. And I went through and updated it again. It's been a few years since we've circulated this, but it's just a shorter culture audit that you can do. You can do either or if you want. But this one also talks a little bit about self-care as well. On the left-hand side, you can see some descriptions about what the literature says and how we're here as managers and supervisors, to support those around us. And then on this page of this document, these are some strategies that you as managers and supervisors can consider in your own areas. Knowing your resources are really important, right? Here at the wellness resources at OSU, what you have at your fingertips in your own departments through your maybe your larger VP units or colleges or wherever your office is located. Communication, which we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, is super important, and there's some nice nuggets in here. And feel free to reach out to anyone on our team about how you can, some of those strategies for communication and best practices, hosting healthy meetings, whether you're in person or remote, encouraging movement and healthy eating and the health and wellness topics that we like to talk about. We are here to support you and provide you that information. And there's so much out there here at OSU that you can also circulate amongst your staff and your teams. Being supportive of mental and emotional well-being, and I'm going to talk about this here in just a second, but Adrienne mentioned it as well, how important it is, and EAP has that training for managers and supervisors. Being role models, walking the talk is really important as managers and supervisors. It gives people permission to do wellness and or the boundary setting that we were talking about, right? We have to give ourselves permission, but it also helps when managers and supervisors give that permission, if you will, for people to have those boundaries in the self-care. And then some tidbits on setting up the environments for success. And so looking at that, maybe the bigger picture beyond self-care in the environment that you're in and how you can support health and wellness. So that'll be coming to you. And then, oops, sorry about that. Again, I'm just going to pull up my note page real quick so don't forget anything. I'm going to offer to all of you this summer the mental health first aid training. And this is it's about a 6-hour training. We'll probably do it on Zoom. And it's kind of like first aid and CPR. If you're familiar with that, it's for mental health. And so I will send out some information and we'll probably plan for maybe a June or July date and we'll hold them moving forward, but we'll invite all of you as managers, supervisors. If we have more than we can fit in the capacity, we'll offer a second one, then we'll offer a third one. So it's a really cool way to support those around you and recognize signs and symptoms of mental health distress and potentially beyond. So we'll offer that to all of you as managers and supervisors too. And then I also wanted to share with you some cool backdrops that you're going to get a link to. So we created these in-house. They are Zoom backgrounds that are wellness related. And we have about probably 10 more sayings that are going to come out. These are just 3 sayings. And then there's a Buckeye Wellness Innovator one that I'm going to just allow you all to have. If you're an innovator, if you're BWI, you can use this. We do plan to get this out to all of you, but we have this as scarlet and gray, and we also have it in color. I have seen the color ones behind people. It looks fabulous, but here are some Zooms. Taking your vitamin G today. And let's see what this one is. Take good self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup. So I'll get the link to the box for all of you. You can download these and use these as your Zoom backgrounds. And again, we're going to have more come out from our marketing department under Burns' office. So really cool. Very excited that we were able to bring that to fruition. So at this point, we are done. Within the next 24 hours, you're going to receive that email from me. And then I will also follow up with the health athlete information within the next couple of weeks. So it won't be the last one tomorrow. You'll get one more email from me. You'll get a link to the recording, the articles that we've been talking about, those culture audits, the worksheets, and then the box link. So you'll have some good follow-up action items for yourselves. So we hope that you have enjoyed this series. I'm going to include an evaluation in the email tomorrow, which I really hope you can respond to help us to continue to grow and improve the series. And I actually might reach out to all of you as well to maybe gather some information on how you're supporting those around you so that we can share your stories as we move into the future. But again, appreciate your time, energy, and commitment to your own self-care and to those around you. Thank you so much for joining us, Buckeye Wellness. If you have any questions, feel free to email myself, Lauren, Josh, or you can email buckeyewellness@osu.edu. So take care, stay safe, healthy, and well, and we wish you the absolute best. Thank you so much. Take care.